The ancient god's skin was rough and was covered in cracks. However, the hand formed by the violet light was extremely smooth. Although it was huge, it seemed to be formed by a spell. It made a gesture calling Wang Lin like an elder relative calling a child. The action was slow, but it repeated over and over. There was no dangerous aura coming from the huge arm. It felt very ordinary. It only beckoned Wang Lin as if it was going to take him through this giant door. However, Wang Lin was completely on guard and all the hair on his body was standing up. The scene before him was simply too strange. He never would have thought that such a strange thing would occur when the heaven-defying bead was complete. Wang Lin remained motionless as he stared at the hand beckoning him, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. The movement of the arm remained the same, still beckoning Wang Lin silently. However, as time went by, the door behind it gradually turned more illusionary, as if it could dissipate at any time. It was as if he would never have a chance to enter again if he didn't hurry over. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and stepped forward. His right hand reached out to the only thing that still hadn't collapsed, the moongazer bone. Although the moongazer bone had lost the metal element, it was still as hard as before. After all, this was something that belonged to the moongazer serpent. After grabbing the giant moongazer bone, Wang Lin let out a roar and celestial spiritual energy surged through his body as he mercilessly threw the moongazer bone into the sky. The giant bone whistled through the air as it headed straight for the door. Just as the moongazer bone was about to hit the door, the hand-arm beckoning Wang Lin easily caught the bone. Wang Lin gasped and his eyes were filled with horror as the arm casually squeezed. A powerful aura immediately appeared and the entire moongazer bone collapsed into dust. This squeeze caused the entire world to tremble. Countless cracks immediately appeared even on the planet Wang Lin was on. Loud rumbles came from the asteroid field as a large number of asteroids shattered. It created a vacuum within the area, and even the asteroids outside the range of the purple light were affected and continued to collapse. It was as if this squeeze contained unimaginable power. It was as if the entire world could be shattered by that squeeze. That arm slowly loosened and beckoned Wang Lin once more. Wang Lin's scalp went numb and his face was pale as he stared at the arm. He had no idea how strong that squeeze was, but he knew that it wasn't any weaker than the ancient god finger from the moongazer serpent. This arm gave Wang Lin the feeling that nothing in the world could resist that squeeze. The squeeze didn't use strength but something similar to the law Wang Lin displayed with the heavenly chop. However, compared to the heavenly chop, this was much more powerful. After a long time, the giant arm gradually dissipated. However, it maintained its beckoning gesture until the end. The giant door behind it disappeared along with the arm. The violet light surrounding the area condensed once more. In the blink of an eye, all of the violet light gathered and slowly disappeared, reverting back to the heaven-defying bead. As if it had released all its power, the bead fell from the air. Wang Lin hesitated for a bit before his right hand reached out. The bead immediately flew over and landed in his palm. It was completely ordinary, as if it was a normal stone. However, at this moment there was no trace of the 5 elemental energies from it. It was even more thoroughly depleted than when Wang Lin first found it. Wang Lin's divine sense went inside the bead. Li Muan's, Wang Ping's, and Qing Yi's souls were still inside. Compared to before, they seemed even more lively, especially Li Muan's soul, which seemed more stable now. What exactly is the power of the heaven-defying bead? Where does that huge door lead to? And that arm outside the door? Wang Lin pondered. It wasn't hard to guess that he wasn't the first person to obtain the heaven-defying bead, considering how long it had existed for. There must have been someone else who was able to complete the 5 elements for the heaven-defying bead. However, after seeing the gate, those people must have chosen to enter, whether it was the first or one of the subsequent times the door appeared. Were these seniors crushed by the arm or did they really enter the door? Wang Lin frowned. Before the heaven-defying bead was complete, Wang Lin was really puzzled by it. However, after the 5 elements were completed, not only did nothing change, he was even more puzzled. Could this door lead to the ancient celestial realm? But if that is the case, why is that arm there? Although it looks like it is beckoning, in reality it is there to crush. What exactly is the heaven-defying bead? Wang Lin frowned and stared at the heaven-defying bead. After a long time, he placed it against his forehead and it disappeared into his origin soul. Since he couldn't understand right now, Wang Lin decided to stop thinking about it for now. It was obvious that the key was the door, but he just didn't know what was behind the door. The heaven-defying bead's 5 elemental energies are now gone and need to be gathered once more. Wang Lin looked around. After what just happened, this planet was completely wasted. There was no longer any value in staying here. Unfortunately, this treasured place is now gone, but the place that makes my origin soul comfortable is deeper in the asteroid field. If there's more thunder, then I can cultivate the thunder origin spell. After making up his mind, Wang Lin moved. He charged out of this place like a bolt of thunder. Most of the asteroids nearby were now gone. Wang Lin didn't pause as he took out the war chariot and the thunder beast appeared. The moment the thunder beast came out, it let out a roar as if it had been suppressed for countless years and looked at Wang Lin. However, the thunder beast was surprised. It carefully looked at Wang Lin and its eyes revealed confusion. Wang Lin sat down on the thunder beast. Then he slapped its head and laughed. Don't stare anymore. With your intelligence, you must have noticed what's special about the place ahead. Are you still not heading over? The thunder beast let out a roar. In its eyes, it was as if Wang Lin doesn't exist at all, and in his place was a bolt of thunder. However, this bolt of thunder gave him a very cordial feeling, a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. Wang Lin's slap on its head made it feel extremely comfortable. It couldn't help but let out a roar. Thunder Beast was very fast as it traveled through the asteroid field. The deeper they went, the denser the asteroids became. There were even some asteroids giving off flashes of thunder. This environment caused no discomfort for neither Wang Lin nor the Thunder Beast. The Thunder Beast was extremely happy, and it continued to roar happily. While sitting on the Thunder Beast, Wang Lin was still thinking about the heaven-defying bead. Deep in his heart he was still disappointed. After all, he had spent almost 1,000 years gathering the 5 elements, and the trip to the Moongazer Serpent almost cost him his life. He originally thought that he would gain some great power that would have been of great use to him. However, right now the difference between reality and his hopes was too big. What exactly is this heaven-defying bead? Wang Lin touched his forehead and pondered. The Thunder Beast was very sensitive to the power of thunder. It continued to travel deep into the asteroid field. Muffled sounds of thunder interrupted Wang Lin's thoughts and his eyes lit up. The place ahead was where the comfortable feeling in his origin soul was coming from. The thunder here was extremely dense. This is the place. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Thunder Beast traveled through the asteroid field and then suddenly stopped. Its large eyes revealed shock. When Wang Lin saw what was before him, he gasped and his eyes started shining brightly. There was no planet before him. It was a vast lake of thunder. This place was filled with lightning and thunder. It was like a real thunder hell. The thunder planet from before was really insignificant compared to this place. In the boundless lake of thunder, lightning bolts moved around like dragons, and the rumbling released a powerful aura. The Thunder Beast let out a roar and looked at the lake of thunder with hesitation. The power of thunder here was too strong. Even though it was a Thunder Beast, it still almost felt like it couldn't withstand this. Wang Lin's body moved and he got off the Thunder Beast. His eyes narrowed and became cautious. He first let out the Celestial Guard to stand guard nearby, and then arrived at the edge of the Lake of Thunder. He observed for a while before taking a step. When his step landed, the thunder immediately entered his body through his feet and filled his being. Even Wang Lin's body felt numb. He took a deep breath and then took another step. He took 20 steps in a row before stopping. His entire body was surrounded by thunder, and his origin soul was giving off the might of thunder. This place was his currently limit. Wang Lin slowly sat down and closed his eyes to cultivate. The Thunder Beast fidgeted around the edge for a long time before finally taking a cautious step forward. It immediately felt the thunder and then lied down. It began absorbing and refining the thunder using a method only the Thunder Beasts knew. There was no other sound beside the sound of thunder. The man and beast just began to cultivate like this. Wang Lin gradually adapted to this place, and his heart was in shock. The thunder here exceeded that of his body. If it wasn't for the fact that his body was made of thunder, it would have been very difficult for him to even remain at the edge. This is indeed the best place to cultivate the thunder origin spell. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with thunder, as he silently cultivated the thunder origin spell. At this moment, in a distant space outside the asteroid field, a bolt of thunder whistled by. This was a thunder beast, and although it had no horn, there was a bulge forming on its head. The thunder beast was wearing black armor, making it look extremely ferocious. A middle-aged man was sitting on the back of the thunder beast. His hair flowed behind him and he was expressionless as he charged toward the asteroid field. The Thunder Celestial Realm is about to open. I must absorb more origin energy from the Thunder Lake. The black-haired man rubbed the Thunder Beast's big head, and his eyes revealed a strange light as he muttered, "I just don't know what kind of treasures will appear in the Thunder Celestial Realm. I fear that the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple will be fighting fiercely against each other." He revealed a gloomy expression. The Thunder Beast below him turned into a ray of lightning and flew off into the distance. Rumor has it that the mysterious heaven-defying bead first appeared in the depths of the asteroid field in Southern Domain. Because of the appearance of the bead, it caused the thunder here to change and created this Thunder Lake. This is now the best place to cultivate thunder spells. The man's eyes lit up and he moved even faster. Wang Lin was inside the Thunder Lake as he muttered the words to the Thunder Origin spell over and over again. After understanding it, Wang Lin's hand formed a seal and then placed his hands on his knees. He then took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The Thunder Origin spell used a mysterious method to extract origin energy out of heavenly thunder and make it your own. This kind of spell was extremely rare. Only second-step cultivators would have something like this. It would often be considered a treasure that wouldn't be given out casually. This method focused on thunder entering the body. If one's cultivation level wasn't high enough, it was no different from harming your own body. If one was careless, their origin soul would be damaged, and in serious cases they would immediately be destroyed. However, this method couldn't be more suitable for Wang Lin. His origin soul was thunder and his new body was made of thunder. In the eyes of the Thunder Beast, Wang Lin's entire being was just thunder. Shortly after, Wang Lin's hand slowly lifted and his hand formed a seal. With a shake, large amounts of ripples appeared in the air. These ripples were formed by thunder, and they slowly spread out. This shake in reality contained 9 different seals that were produced at extremely high speed. These seals created the ability to attract thunder. Under the loud rumble of the Thunder Lake, a strand of thunder seemed to be attracted. It seemed to finally have found a point of release and immediately rushed over, attempting to devour everything in its path. However, at the moment it touched Wang Lin, it dissipated and charged into Wang Lin's body. The thunder here was very strong, far beyond ordinary thunder. The moment it entered Wang Lin's body, it surged through his body. Wang Lin's hand quickly performed the Thunder Origin spell. A huge vortex quickly appeared in his body and constantly rotated. With every rotation, it squeezed out some origin energy from the thunder. This process lasted for a long time. The introduction said that the first time using this spell would be very difficult. On one hand, the body had to resist the thunder, and on the other hand, it would absorb origin energy. It required time to adapt to all of this. However, Wang Lin didn't have to worry about all of this. His flesh and origin soul were already made from thunder. At most, the thunder would cause him to feel uncomfortable, but he wouldn't be injured. At this moment, he focused all of his attention on squeezing out origin energy, and naturally disregarded the discomfort coming from his body. After a long time, the strand of thunder gradually collapsed under the effect of the Thunder Origin spell, leaving behind a trace amount of impure origin energy. There was simply too little origin energy, so much so that it was impossible to detect if one wasn't looking carefully. However, Wang Lin treasured it like a treasure and was excited from the bottom of his heart. For a first-step cultivator, origin energy was a luxury. Only when one reaches the ascendant can they have the opportunity to obtain some, and it was impossible to gain or recover more. Forming origin energy from the world required spells from second-step cultivators. If it wasn't for a series of fortuitous coincidences, Wang Lin won't have been able to do this. He suppressed the ecstasy and excitement in his heart and carefully cycled the impure origin energy toward his origin soul. Once there, it will have the impurity refined from it. Although the origin energy remaining will be even less, it will become something that can be used by him. This was an extremely critical moment, so Wang Lin didn't dare to be careless. He slowly controlled his impure origin energy into his origin soul. However, just at this moment, a sudden change occurred. This change caught Wang Lin unprepared, so he didn't have time to control it. The moment the trace of impure origin energy touched his origin soul, it became like a runaway wild horse and moved violently. It drilled into his origin soul, but instead of fusing with the origin soul, it charged to the location of the heaven-defying bead. This trace of impure origin energy fused with the heaven-defying bead in an instant. A thunderous roar that people the outside couldn't hear but Wang Lin could hear clearly echoed inside his body. It was as if he was hit mercilessly by a large mountain. Wang Lin's face instantly became pale, his origin soul shook, and even his body unceasingly trembled. The heaven-defying bead inside his body didn't listen to Wang Lin's command. It slowly floated out from between his eyebrows. Wang stared at the scene before him and his mind trembled. The heaven-defying bead appeared once more. This time, as soon as it came out from Wang Lin's body, the entire Thunder Lake became violent and strands of thunder dragons immediately charged out. This caused a large amount of fluctuations which in turn caused the asteroids to be affected and give off powerful thunder. This caused the Celestial Guard to retreat until it was far away to not be affected. Even the Thunder Beast was awakened by the change in the thunder. It subconsciously retreated and didn't dare to close in. Wang Lin looked at the heaven-defying bead in the sky. The confusion in his eyes became even stronger. The countless thunder dragons whistled out from all directions. The dragons charged in one by one into the heaven-defying bead. This scene was extremely shocking, and it completely startled Wang Lin. The heaven-defying bead slowly turned, and with every turn it would absorb a large amount of thunder. A violet light slowly formed around the bead. Wang Lin was too familiar with this scene. Not long ago this exact same thing happened. The violet light became blinding and suddenly spread out. The mysterious restriction appeared once more. At the same time, the huge door appeared before Wang Lin's eyes. All of this was simply too bizarre, and it shocked Wang Lin greatly. He didn't know that the heaven bead first appeared here. All of the mysterious changes that occurred here were caused by the appearance of the heaven-defying bead. Wang Lin had inadvertently made his way here, and brought the heaven-defying bead back to where it originally appeared. It would be said that karma was involved in his. However, this wasn't completely unintentional. In fact, when Wang Lin was injured and he sought this place out, it wasn't just due to the characteristics of the Thunder Dragon. An even more hidden reason was the heaven-defying bead. The heaven-defying bead was the only thing that had fused with Wang Lin's origin soul, and no longer existed physically, so it had the ability to influence Wang Lin's origin soul. In fact, the comfortable feeling was from the heaven-defying bead. If only that was the case, it wouldn't have been a big deal. The incomplete heaven-defying bead hadn't recognized an owner yet, so even if Wang Lin had brought it here, it wouldn't have had any changes. However, when the 5 elements were complete, the heaven-defying bead changed. When the huge door appeared, it meant that Wang Lin had activated the heaven-defying bead for the first time. This activation meant that the bead had recognized an owner. Afterward, Wang Lin absorbed the heaven-defying bead and came here. The moment it touched the thunder here, a change occurred. If any of these factors were missing, the heaven-defying bead wouldn't have had changed like this. In the countless years since the heaven-defying bead had come into being, Wang Lin was the only one to reach this step. The giant door appeared once more. The violet light caused the world and even the Thunder Lake to turn purple. The thunder became purple thunder. The appearance of the door caused the sense of awe to appear in his body once more. Although he had already resisted it once, his body still trembled slightly, but his eyes remained unyielding. As the violet light shined everywhere, the giant arm outside the door appeared once more. However, it made Wang Lin's heart skip a beat this time. The moment the arm appeared, a large amount of purple lightning immediately charged toward it. Countless strands of thunder wrapped around the arm as if they had subdued it. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and stared at the arm. After pondering for a bit, he clenched his teeth, jumped into the air, and charged toward the giant door. If this arm wasn't locked by the thunder, Wang Lin wouldn't have chosen to enter it. However, he felt that if he missed this once-in-a-lifetime chance, he would never be able to see the secret beyond the door. Although his speed was bad, he left himself a way out. If the arm broke free of the thunder, he would immediately turn and flee. He was getting closer and closer. The arm began to move, but the thunder around it was like a metal chain that held it down. This caused the armo to slow down. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as his speed increased and he charged at the door like a bolt of thunder. At the moment he got close, the door opened up by a small gap. At the moment the gap opened, the world stopped. Wang Lin's body also stopped outside the gap. His eyes opened widely, and at this moment, it was as if his mind was sucked into the door. Everything Wang Lin saw caused him to tremble violently. It was as if his origin soul had left his body, as he could no longer feel his body. His whole being seemed to exist in endless chaos. This place is the heaven-defying Bead space. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed as he immediately recognized this place. He was too familiar with this place. It was filled with chaos and occasionally there would be balls of light glowing. The balls of light immediately began to change as if his gaze was a catalyst. The balls of light he was looking at suddenly swelled up. They swelled up too fast. In the blink of an eye, they were already huge. Wang Lin was stunned as the balls of light were now as big as a planet. A powerful aura came out from the balls of light. This aura was filled with vitality. This vitality was extremely pure, as if it was a newborn baby. Shortly after, clouds of dust appeared and were absorbed by the light. Soon, they began to condense and formed land masses. Some of the dust formed rivers and oceans. Wang Lin gasped. This was a planet. The spiritual energy coming from it was very rich. Aside from not having any mortals living on it, it was no different from any other cultivation planet outside. While he was shocked, the planet immediately began to degrade as if time was reverting itself. In the blink of an eye, it was once more a ball of light becoming smaller and smaller until it was only flickering. Wang Lin's mind gradually lost consciousness as the ball of light changed. He was completely immersed in this familiar yet foreign space. Time slowly passed as if there was no end point. Wang Lin seemed to have forgotten everything. He was in a strange state as he drifted in this endless space. He would always see the strange scene with the balls of light before his eyes. As he continued to watch this scene, Wang Lin could slowly feel a mysterious power build up. This power was everywhere, and he subconsciously wanted to search for its source. He didn't realize how similar this scene was to when he was comprehending the heavens and seeking to find the origin of the life and death domain. As he subconsciously searched for the source of this power, time passed, but he didn't care. Eons passed, but he didn't stop. It was as if he had become a wandering spirit, always pursuing. Wang Lin was seeking Tao, following the steps of Tao and seeking the end of Tao. It was as if everything in the world had become the distance past. It was as if everything had shattered and become nothing. They could no longer cause any waves in his heart. Those who seek Tao understand in the morning and are dead by dusk, regrettable. Those who seek Tao understand during death, pitiful. There was no end to the search. Wang Lin had seen countless balls of light turn into a planet and then back into nothing. Every time this happened, he wanted to seize that trace of Tao. However, he failed to touch it every time, but he gradually felt like he was getting closer and closer to that trace of Tao. The Tao was only there for a moment before it disappeared once more. Wang Lin seemed to have found a clue during his confused search. The mysterious power he was seeking seemed to be something that was beyond the existence of law. This awareness was very light, but it left a deep impression. It had always been there since the beginning. The Tao seemed to be where his gaze was, but at the moment he moved his gaze, the Tao would seem to disappear. This was a very vague feeling, but it slowly flowed into Wang Lin's body. He gradually felt like he was catching up to the Tao's footprints, and was about to grasp the source of the mysterious power. During this process, in which there was no concept of time, Wang Lin saw a planet. This planet wasn't formed by the balls of light and existed naturally. The vitality from this planet was very weak, but it was filled with warmth and tenderness. Beside this planet were two smaller planets. They were very close and each gave off a sense of attachment. At the moment Wang Lin closed in, one of the smaller planets gave off a ripple. It seemed to be filled with joy, giving off a powerful emotion. At the moment Wang Lin saw the three planets, his mind trembled as he discovered something. He subconsciously wanted to raise his hand, but he didn't notice that in his current state, he didn't even have a body. However, his hand still appeared. It was as if all he needed to do was think and it would materialize. His hand gently moved and a ripple appeared in the void. Under this ripple, the 3 planets immediately turned into 3 rays of light and entered Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin stopped seeking Tao. In his trance-like state, it felt as if he was the Tao right now. As he stopped, his mind slowly calmed down. Then his entire body subconsciously turned into a ball of light. As time passed, the ball of light he had turned into gradually expanded. He absorbed the surrounding dust and eventually a planet appeared. The mountains on this planet were spectacular and the rivers were beautiful. The earth was filled with energy, and even the sea was as blue as the sky, as if it could accommodate the world. In the northern part of the planet there was only one family. One man and one woman who lived a quiet and peaceful life. It was as if they could have everything they wanted, including the countless mortals in the surrounding villages. On this day, a ray of light passed by the southern part of the planet. Inside the ray of light was a woman wearing white. The woman was beautiful and as gentle as water. Her black hair flowed in the air. Sometimes a few strands would get in front and she would tuck the hair behind her ear with her jade-like hands. As she flew, her eyes were filled with confusion. She looked down at the earth as she bit her lower lip and muttered, "Why does this world give me such a familiar feeling?" She pondered for a long time before shaking her head. Her figure moved like a ray of light and disappeared over the horizon. "I want to find the answer." The wind carried the woman's decisive voice. Time slowly passed as if it would last forever. Countless years passed and everything gradually changed. The only things that never changed were the 3 people. 2 of them still lived a quiet life and the last one was still looking for an answer. It wasn't until the end that the Tao finally arrived. The earth disappeared and the planet no longer existed. The 3 people turned back into 3 balls of light, and then were caught inside a huge palm which then drifted far away. As the palm dissipated, Wang Lin consciousness appeared. "So this is Tao." Wang Lin's voice echoed in the void. Everything he was searching for ended with himself. He himself was Tao. The heaven and earth were made up of countless Tao. He was Tao. Before him were countless balls of light changing from life to death and from death to life. This was his life and death Tao. In the karmic cycle, if there was karmic effect, then there was karmic cause, such as Li Muan's search for answers in Wang Ping's ordinary life. This was his karma Tao. For an instant, Wang Lin felt like he understood something, but at the same time he understood nothing. This kind of confusion was like a wave rocking in his mind. This wave became more and more intense until it caused his mind to tremble. He awakened. The moment he regained clarity, he felt like his origin soul would be pushed outside violently. When he opened his eyes, he was still outside the door. Nothing around him had changed. The thunder still rumbled and the violet light still covered the area. It was as if everything that had happened didn't happen at all. Wang Lin was still before the gate, and everything that happened was just his dream. So unreal and yet so real. The door that had only opened a gap slowly closed before his eyes and dissipated. The huge arm wrapped by the purple light also disappeared. The violet light contracted and changed back into the heaven-defying bead. There was mysterious change to the heaven-defying bead. Before, it had the 5 elements engraved on it. Now they were replaced by yin and yang. Yin was represented by a moon and yang was represented by a sun. Each covered half the heaven-defying bead and were distinct from each other. It floated toward Wang Lin's forehead and entered the spot between his eyebrows. Wang Lin was still standing motionlessly in the air and his eyes slowly closed. The scenes from before still echoed in his mind. He vaguely became aware of something. He seemed to have once more forgotten about the passage of time, and was only immersed in the comprehension in his heart that continued to echo in his mind. He carved the unreal dream bit by bit into his heart. Wang Lin knew that everything inside the dream was extremely precious. This was a heavenly opportunity. He couldn't tell anyone about the dream, and he wouldn't be able to explain it clearly anyway. He was actually afraid of telling anyone. He had a feeling that the All-Seer and company would be willing to give up everything for this opportunity. Even if it meant giving up planet Tianyun, giving up all their magical treasures and spells. The All-Seer and company wouldn't have hesitated at all to have a chance to seek Tao like this. Because this Tao seeking would open up that mysterious third step that tens of thousands cultivators were striving and craving for. Those who seek Tao understand in the morning and are dead by dusk. Those who seek Tao understand during death. Wang Lin still didn't know the value of the heaven-defying bead, but just the tip of the iceberg that he had seen shocked him greatly. This was something he would never forget. This seeking of Tao didn't cause his cultivation level to increase, but it refined his Tao. Before, when Wang Lin stood under the door, he felt a deep sense of awe from his soul. This was because of the difference in levels, just like how people appear in an ant's eyes. Although Wang Lin wasn't at the same level of existence as the door and he was still an ant in comparison, he was an ant that had seen the third step. He had seen the third step. While immersed in his thoughts, the thunder lake under Wang Lin seemed to be affected by something. A large amount of thunder began to spread in all directions. At this moment, a ray of thunder flew through the asteroid field. Inside the ray of thunder was a thunder beast in black armor. On the back of the thunder beast was the black-haired man. His eyes were filled with caution as he charged into the depths of the asteroid field. When he arrived near the asteroid field, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. The fluctuations of the thunder here were too violent, very different from the last time he was here. This thunder even contained an incredibly powerful aura. This shocked the black-haired man and made him extremely cautious. He slowly made his way through the asteroid field. He was very familiar with this place because he had been here many times to cultivate the Thunder Origin spell, but never had he been so on guard. He moved quickly, and after an unknown amount of time, he gradually grew closer to the center. The closer he got, the stronger that feeling of shock became. What exactly happened over there? The black-hair man's expression was gloomy. His cultivation level was at the corporeal yang stage, and he only needed a bit more to reach completion and then he could enter the nirvana scryer stage. With his cultivation level, there weren't many things that could make him feel like this. However, at this moment this feeling became even stronger. After hesitating for a bit, he clenched his teeth and the thunder beast charged through the last layer of asteroids. He soon spotted the familiar thunder lake before him. He immediately saw Wang Lin above the thunder lake. The current Wang Lin was simply too strange in the black-haired man's eyes. Wang Lin was floating in the air. A large amount of thunder was moving through his body, and his hair was moving without any wind. The size of the thunder lake caused the black-haired man to gasp. The thunder lake before him made him felt like he had come to the wrong place. It was actually half the size of when he last came to this place. It looked endless before, but now it felt like he could almost see the other side. This person's appearances was like a stone thrown into calm water, creating countless ripples. Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. This was a pair of indescribable eyes. They seemed to contain the world and all the laws of the world. It was as this pair of eyes could see through the heavens and earth. It gave off a shocking feeling, just like the huge arm that appeared before the door. This kind of feeling would shock anyone who saw it, and it made them feel awe as if they were only an ant. This pair of eyes contained some remnants of Wang Lin's unreal dream. At this moment it was as if he was the heavens and earth, he was the heavenly Tao. This was the aura of the third step. Wang Lin's eyes were not focused and were filled with confusion as he casually looked at the black-haired man. This gaze caused the black-haired man to feel like countless thunderbolts had just exploded inside him. It was as if he had absorbed more thunder than he could handle with the Thunder Origin spell. His entire body seemed to have been fixed in place at this moment, and Wang Lin's eyes were the only things that existed in his world. At this instant, only this gaze existed in his life. Thunder rumbled in his ears, but it felt like it was very far away. He could clearly hear it but not feel it. He couldn't understand what kind of gaze it was, but this gaze contained a mysterious force far beyond his comprehension. This power directly tore through his eyes and shook his entire being. His heartbeat reached a limit as if it was about to explode. All of the blood in his body circulated like crazy along with his origin energy. He was completely horrified. It was as if he would collapse under this gaze if he didn't cycle his origin energy. What power is this? The black-haired man wasn't able to move his body an inch. The origin energy in his energy cycled like crazy. Even if the origin energy dissipated or was wasted, he couldn't be bothered with that anymore. His mouth was dry and his body was long ago soaked in sweat. However, he just couldn't shift his eyes away from this crazy gaze. With his cultivation, this was the first time in his life he had felt something so terrifying. He wasn't this terrified even when he met the Lord of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Wang Lin calmly looked at the black-haired man. There was trace of his Tao seeking in his eyes. He only saw a person, but right now it didn't matter if they were cultivators or mortals. With that trace of comprehension in Wang Lin's eyes, the other person seemed like only an ant to him. While in the dream of seeking Tao, his gaze was the Tao that caused the balls of light to quickly go through an entire life cycle. He carried the gaze he had during that dream when he looked at the black-haired man. This person was like the balls of light in the dream. However, instead of quickly expanding, this person was quickly dissipating. The person dissipated layer by layer and didn't stop. The terror in the black-haired man's eyes had reached a limit. He had never experienced such a crisis of life and death. From the moment the gaze landed on him, he could feel his origin soul burning. The origin energy in his body seemed to have lost control and formed an invisible flame. The other person's gaze contained a terrifying power that he was unable to resist. It was as if the heavens were telling him to die. It was as if he was an ant, and a sense of awe had filled his entire body. Not only him, the thunder beast under him felt this even more strongly. It let out miserable cries and its body began to dissipate at a visible speed as if dirt returning to the earth. All of this happened in an instant. The cloudiness in Wang Lin's eyes disappeared. Then he took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The black-haired man's body almost collapsed when he awakened from the terrifying power. He was soaked in sweat and more than half of the origin energy in his body was gone. His origin soul has shrunk one size and he was extremely weak. As he stared at Wang Lin, terror filled his mind. Too terrifying. What kind of gaze was that? What cultivation level is he at? The black-haired man gasped, his body trembled, and his face turned completely pale. He regretted coming here. If he hadn't come here, he wouldn't have had to experience that terrifying gaze just now. He didn't doubt that if that mysterious person had looked at him for a few breaths longer, he would have collapsed. After that he would have disintegrated and all traces of him would have been destroyed. He wouldn't even have been able to escape with his origin soul. The thunder beast under him was even worse off, and it looked at Wang Lin with terror in its eyes. The pride of thunder beasts made them prefer to die than yield. However, that gaze was not as simple as death. It was a suppression from a higher level. In the eyes of the black-haired man, Wang Lin's figure was infinitely large. The black-haired man even believed that no one in the all-heaven star system would remain unharmed under that gaze. Not even the head of the Thunder Celestial Temple. In particular, the disregard in those eyes made it seem as if the entire world was only a mere ant. This feeling made the black-haired man's body tremble. Given his pride, he had never felt respect like this toward anyone else. When the gap in power was not very large, he would be filled with thoughts of resisting. However, when he felt that someone's power was impossible to challenge and no one he had ever met could compare, he would only think about submitting. Tao sight. That gaze must be the legendary Tao sight. The black-haired man's terror was replaced with fanaticism. His mind was in shock and his body trembled. When he thought about the words Tao sight, he was filled with excitement and horror. Mortals have dream sight and cultivators have Tao sight. However, this Tao sight was only a legend. The black-haired man only knew about rumors stating that a person had appeared in the all-heaven star system countless years ago. This person used their own strength and used only one spell to defeat all of the second-step cultivators in the all-heaven star system. Even among the second-step cultivators, aside from a limited few, most didn't even get to use one spell or magical treasure before they lost. That person was very disappointed and turned to leave. One person gathered the courage to ask the name of the spell, and what they got was one plain sentence. This spell is named Tao Sight. It wasn't created by me, and all of you are able to perform it. The black-haired man took a deep breath, immediately got off the thunder beast, and respectfully stood where he was. Now that he wasn't under Wang Lin's gaze, he became aware that there was another person sitting on an asteroid nearby. The black-haired man was startled when he saw the person. He naturally knew that it was a puppet. Then he saw the silver-horned thunder beast at the edge of the Thunder Lake. When he arrived, he was immediately caught by Wang Lin's gaze, so he didn't see anything else. Now that he had surveyed his surroundings, he was shocked once more. A silver-horned thunder beast. An illusory puppet. He is also a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. The black-haired man somewhat didn't dare to believe all of this. He didn't doubt Wang Lin's identity, but he didn't think such a powerful person would be a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Before he could think too much, Wang Lin opened his eyes once more. His eyes were back to normal. Earlier, not only was the black-haired man shocked, Wang Lin was also startled by this. Could that feeling earlier have been the third step? Wang Lin silently pondered. That feeling was something that could only be obtained by chance and not asked for. However, his cultivation level was too low. This feeling was something he could keep in his heart, but couldn't completely understand. The realistic scenes in the unreal dream opened the door for him to the third step. If anyone in the All Heaven or Alliance star system knew about this, they would all go crazy for the bead. The biggest goal of people like the All-Seer was the third step. They were willing to do anything for this third step. For them, the third step was nowhere to be found. They were still advancing in the darkness and bitterly searching. However, Wang Lin was able to obtain such an unimaginable opportunity due to the heaven-defying bead. Sometimes fate was just like this. After seeing the Tao from the third step, Wang Lin's future achievements were unpredictable and unimaginable. Junior is a level 2 messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Shengonghu. Shengonghu greets Senior. The black-haired man immediately crawled on the ground in the position he used to acknowledge his teacher to show his respect. If an outsider had seen this, they would be extremely shocked. It has to be said that Shengonghu was extremely proud and very vicious. Even among the messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple, he was a difficult person, and most cultivation families wouldn't dare to provoke him. Most importantly, this person's talent was amazing. Even the Lord of the Thunder Celestial Temple once said that Shengonghu's talent could be considered top 30 in the All-Heaven star system. This person hadn't cultivated for long, only 1,000 years. In only 1,000 years he managed to reach the corporeal yang stage and was even at the peak. This kind of talent made people dread him even more than his viciousness. No one could determine what his limits were. Perhaps he could finally become a true second-step cultivator. Wang Lin didn't move. His expression was neutral as he calmly looked at Shengonghu. After seeing a glimpse of the third step's Tao, although his cultivation level didn't increase, his mental strength went through a drastic change. The nature of his soul was different than before. At this moment, even if he stood before the All-Seer, he wouldn't feel any tension. It was just like mortals who had seen cultivators and their spells. When they looked at a mortal king, they were no longer afraid. Under Wang Lin's gaze, although Shengonghu didn't feel the terror from before, he still trembled. That terrifying memory had been imprinted into his mind and wouldn't dissipate even in death. In reality, it was a great opportunity for Shengonghu. If the All-Seer and company had no chance of obtaining the bead, then they would choose to personally experience it without any hesitation. Even the thunder beast next to him lowered its head and no longer had any pride on its face. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and calmly asked, "What is it?" His current state of mind was still somewhat in the unreal dream. Even his tone reflected this. Although Shengonghu's cultivation was at the corporeal yang stage, his mind was greatly damaged right now. In particular, with his current timid heart, he would barely be able to use the power of an illusory Yin cultivator. As for the thunder beast, it didn't even dare to raise its head. The gaze from earlier made it lose all its guts. Wang Lin's casual words suddenly stunned Shengonghu. He quickly said, "Junior." Before he finished speaking, Wang Lin waved his right hand and said, "If there is nothing, then quickly leave." Wang Lin decided to carefully study the change in the heaven-defying bead. The power of the heaven-defying bead was far beyond his imagination. Just a gap in the door had allowed him to see the third step. If he opened it completely, Wang Lin's heart beat rapidly. He couldn't imagine what would happen. In addition, this dream caused his domain to improve. He wasn't far from the peak of the late stage of Ascendant, the end of the first step of cultivation. Shengonghu felt like Wang Lin's attitude was very normal. A powerful person should be like this, as he was the one who disturbed this senior's cultivation. This senior had been kind by not killing him. Thinking about the gaze from before, Shengonghu didn't doubt that this senior had spared him. Otherwise, he would have without a doubt died. His trembling mind and shock had transformed into fanaticism and reverence. After taking a deep breath, he said, Senior, Junior is Shengong Hu, a member of the Shengong family in the Southern Domain. I'm a level 2 messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple and a corporeal Yang cultivator. I beg Senior to allow me to pledge to Senior. It wasn't that he wasn't able to see through Wang Lin's cultivation, but that terrifying gaze made him forget all of that. He even believed that this was a true powerful cultivator. If a powerful cultivator was hiding their cultivation level, they would make others believe that they were an ascendant cultivator. Pledge. Wang Lin was startled and looked at Shengong Hu. Shengong Hu quickly said, Junior's cultivation is insufficient and I know I'm not qualified to pledge to Senior. However, Junior is extremely sincere, and moreover, I have a lot of families that are pledged to me, so Junior can help satisfy any of Senior's demands. Junior knows that such things are nothing in Senior's eyes, but I hope Senior will allow me to pledge to you given my sincerity. Wang Lin frowned. After pondering a bit, he shook his head. He couldn't use that spell again, and from one gaze, he could tell that this person was extremely prideful. If this person noticed something, it would cause unnecessary trouble. When Shengong Hu saw Wang Lin shake his head, he immediately said, Senior, Junior is extremely sincere and will never regret this no matter how much time passes. As long as Senior is willing to give me a few pointers during my breakthrough, Junior is willing to give up a part of my Tao soul to pledge to Senior for 1,000 years. As he spoke, his hand formed a seal and then pointed at his forehead. A black light that contained his domain and Tao flew out of his head. In the all-heaven star system, a person who pledges can selectively surrender something. One's Tao soul was the most important thing that could be given. Once their Tao soul was controlled by someone else, although it wasn't the same as death, their Tao heart could be affected. The consequences had much longer-lasting significance. Giving his Tao soul showed Shengong Hu's sincerity. He was really frightened by Wang Lin's gaze. He had a vague feeling that if he gave up this chance today, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Shengong Hu trusted his feeling a lot. A lot of important decisions in his life were made due to his feelings, and right now this feeling was very strong, which strengthened his belief. Looking at Shengong Hu showing his Tao soul, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. Although he didn't know what it was, he understood what it represented. After pondering for a long time, Wang Lin slowly asked, You won't regret it? Shengong Hu immediately responded respectfully, Junior will definitely not regret it. Wang Lin no longer wasted any more time. He waved his hand and Shengong Hu's Tao soul flew over. He devoured it and it entered his origin soul. After putting away the Tao soul, Wang Lin calmly asked, Why did you come here? Shengong Hu bitterly smiled. The Thunder Celestial Realm is about to open, so Junior wanted to borrow this place to cultivate some origin energy. Wang Lin's expression was neutral while he felt Shengong Hu's Tao soul. This person's domain was similar to Ling Tianho's, but there were differences. However, because Wang Lin didn't understand Shengong Hu's life experiences, he wasn't able to get the full picture. How long before the Thunder Celestial Realm opens? Wang Lin spoke calmly and his eyes closed slightly. Shengong Hu respectfully said, 10 more years before the Thunder Celestial Realm opens. Then one can use the Thunder Furnace to enter. Wang Lin pondered a bit. He was very interested in the Thunder Celestial Realm. When he entered the Rain Celestial Realm, he couldn't absorb any celestial jades. However, at this moment he could absorb a large amount. This trip to the Thunder Celestial Realm would allow his cultivation to reach its completion. The Celestial Realm is broken. What is the restriction to entering the Celestial Realm? Wang Lin's eyes were bright as he looked at Shengong Hu. Shengong Hu was startled. After hesitating for a moment, he made some speculations based on Wang Lin's words. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he calmly said, This old man is not someone from the all-heaven star system. The random thoughts in Shengong Hu's mind disappeared. Almost at the moment Wang Lin spoke, he came to the same answer. In his mind, only this kind of origin fitted Wang Lin's status. Senior, my all-heaven star system's Thunder Celestial Realm isn't too seriously damaged. The limitation on cultivation is late-stage ascendant. However, the Thunder Celestial Palace has a method for second-step cultivators to enter. The premise is that they don't use strength beyond early stage of Nirvana Scryer. Wang Lin nodded and then asked a few more details. This Thunder Celestial Realm was similar to the Rain Celestial Realm. After all, countless years ago, the rain and thunder celestial realms were both passages to the ancient celestial realm. After getting information, Wang Lin calmly looked at Donghua and said, "Forget it. You can stay here and cultivate, but don't disturb this old man." Donghua quickly nodded. He had come here with the purpose to cultivate, but now he was seriously injured and his cultivation level had dropped. It would be difficult to find a better place within just 10 years. Also, just healing his injuries would take a lot of time. It was possible that he would only manage to recover when the Thunder Celestial Realm opened. After Wang Lin allowed him to stay, he immediately felt gratitude in his heart. In truth, he would not normally feel like this, but he had already subconsciously surrendered in his heart. He was completely awed by Wang Lin's gaze. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and no longer paid attention to Donghua. He turned around and walked toward the depths of the Thunder Lake. At the beginning, Donghua didn't notice, but soon he sighed. This was indeed someone with a higher cultivation level, and his thunder was not ordinary. With his cultivation, he could only go 50 steps deep and not half a step further. However, his gaze followed Wang Lin and saw Wang Lin walk 100 steps into the Thunder Lake before sitting down. Donghua took a deep breath and his eyes filled with reverence. Due to being injured, he was only able to take 10 steps before he couldn't proceed further. At this point, he quickly sat down and began cultivating the Thunder Origin spell. His Thunder Beast also carefully took a few steps in. Its large head would occasionally turn toward Wang Lin, and its eye would fill with fear. It was a spirit beast, so its instincts made it fear Wang Lin's gaze even more. That gaze had made the Thunder Beast almost lose its mind. It felt like it was returning back to its origin. It had never felt something like this before. Even now it was still terrified of Wang Lin. Just as it was about to lie down, a roar came from far away. Wang Lin's Thunder Beast slowly walked over, and when it walked by Donghua's Thunder Beast, Wang Lin's Thunder Beast gave it a vicious gaze. Donghua's Thunder Beast backed up and no longer dared to approach. Its pride was completely shattered by Wang Lin's gaze. Otherwise, with how it was about to grow its horn, it wouldn't have yielded like this. The Silverhorn Thunder Beast shook its head and cheerfully walked by. It walked 10 steps into the Thunder Lake and lied down to absorb the thunder. In the distance, the Celestial Guard was sitting on an asteroid. Its eyes were flashing and would occasionally look at Donghua. 100 steps was Wang Lin's limit, and this was only because he had seen the third step, which caused his soul to evolve. Looking at the thunder, he felt like he could vaguely see strange changes similar to when he used the Heavenly Chop. When he noticed this change, Wang Lin was able to take 100 steps before he couldn't move any further. He sat down and began absorbing thunder into his body. The Thunder Origin spell extracted the thunder and constantly refined the origin energy from it. As time passed, large amounts of thunder gathered from all directions and was absorbed into his body. As the Thunder Origin spell operated, it slowly drew out the origin energy from the thunder and nourished his origin soul. A very comfortable feeling slowly emerged from Wang Lin's body. When Wang Lin had reached Ascendant due to Zhou Yi's Ascendant Crystal, so Wang Lin had more origin energy than most cultivators. This meant that his path was very smooth, but the use of the Heavenly Chop and the battle with Thunder Taoist caused him to consume too much origin energy. As a result, he was at the edge of his cultivation level dropping. Origin energy was something that was very difficult to recover for first-step cultivators. If Wang Lin didn't have a Thunder Origin soul, he would have regretted all his life. As the origin energy entered Wang Lin and nourished his origin soul slowly recovered. This process was very slow. Wang Lin's hand formed a seal and then started shaking. A large ripple of thunder immediately spread out and 10 times the amount of thunder instantly charged toward Wang Lin. Even he couldn't help but feel numbness. Wang Lin took a deep breath and immediately began refining. Wang Lin's action caused a series of explosions that awakened Donghua. He took a deep breath and opened his eyes. However, when he saw Wang Lin, his pupils suddenly shrank. He is worthy of being a senior. He dared to attract so much thunder into his body at 100 steps. If I was in that position, my flesh wouldn't be able to bear it, and even my origin soul would be damaged. Donghua's eyes lit up and were filled with excitement. It looks like I need to work harder. Shengong, whose eyes lit up, and then he attracted more thunder into his body. His body trembled and immediately began to absorb it. Wang Lin activated the Thunder Origin spell, and 10 times more thunder than before entered his body. Under the increased amount of thunder, the origin energy inside his origin soul gradually began to recover faster. However, it was still far from completely recovering. After all, only a sliver of origin energy could be extracted from every strand of thunder, and after being refined, even less was left for consumption. Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye 2 years went by. In 2 years, Wang Lin remained almost motionless, but instead of 10 times the normal thunder, he was absorbing 20 times the normal thunder. He was like a humanoid piece of metal that was thrown into the thunder lake and attracted thunder like crazy. As for Shengong, he worked even harder during these 2 years, and his injuries gradually recovered. During these 2 years, Wang Lin had observed Shengong. This person also cultivated the Thunder Origin spell. However, Wang Lin was only able to absorb a trace from every strand of thunder, while Shengong was able to absorb 10 times more. As he observed and gradually discovered some clues, this had a lot to do with how much origin energy one had. The more origin energy one had, the more origin energy could be absorbed. It was this characteristic that made the disparity between each level in the second step so great. During these 2 years, Wang Lin engraved everything he saw about the third step into his heart and often comprehended them, so he had some harvest. On this day, he stood up and walked toward the center of the Thunder Lake. Snapping sounds filled the area after each step. The change attracted Shengong's attention. He opened his eyes and looked at Wang Lin. Not only had the excitement in his eyes not lessened, there were even glimmers of expectation. Wang Lin didn't pay any attention to Shengong, and looked toward the center of the Thunder Lake. This Thunder Lake was too big. Although it had shrunk by half due to the heaven-defying bead, it was still shocking. At this moment, Wang Lin was only considered to be at the edge and was too far away from the center. The thunder in the Thunder Lake was naturally more powerful the closer it was to the center, which was the spot with the highest concentration of origin energy. It could even said that the origin energy inside 100 strands of thunder at the edge couldn't compare to the origin energy inside 1 strand of thunder at the center. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin raised his feet and stepped forward. His heart was calm and even contained a hint of caution. However, not far away, Shengong was extremely excited as he looked at Wang Lin and thought, "I'm finally able to see a spell from Senior. This is an once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I must watch carefully and perhaps I'll gain some enlightenment." He was very excited, not any less than when he broke through the first step and entered the illusory stage. In fact, his excitement was several times more intense than that time. Aside from the fact that this place was suitable for healing his injuries, the other reason he wanted to cultivate it here was to follow Wang Lin. He hoped to obtain pointers from Wang Lin, or even see spells from a distance. He waited for 2 years and now he finally got the opportunity. Without any hesitation, Shengong dispersed the thunder around his body. He watched at Wang Lin's every move, ready to firmly remember everything and he witnessed. Even the armored thunder beast raised its head and looked at Wang Lin in the distance. Its eyes were filled with awe, and there was even a glimmer of expectation. Only Wang Lin's silver-horned thunder beast rolled its eyes and didn't even look over. It sleepily lied there and absorbed the thunder. Only by going deeper to absorb thunder can I speed things up. If I stay on the edge, even though I'm absorbing 10 times the thunder and the effect looks the same, in reality there is a huge difference. Wang Lin silently pondered as he walked toward the center of the Thunder Lake. This step caused a ripple when it landed on the Thunder Lake. It attracted countless bolts of thunder. Wang Lin's mind was focused and his eyes gave off lightning. His origin soul was like his heart right now. Although it wasn't pounding, it pulsed thunder that filled his body. His body was made of thunder, so thunder filled his body without any resistance as this origin soul released more. The thunder moved through his body and created a series of explosions. This thunder echoed inside his body. Wang Lin moved forward and took another step. A thunderstorm immediately appeared inside the Thunder Lake, attracting large amounts of thunder. The thunderbolts fell and made it look like a real thunder prison that prevented all life from moving forward. There was a powerful might of thunder inside this thunder. Compared to this, The might of thunder inside Wang Lin's origin soul was like comparing a firefly to the bright moon. This place is very strange. The strength of the thunder here is simply too amazing. Wang Lin's feet landed, causing a loud series of explosions that echoed across the Thunder Lake. He didn't stop and continued moving forward 10 steps. Every step he took triggered a loud explosion even more fierce than thunder. It was as if the entire world was trembling. In particular, Wang Lin's speed was very fast, so he took 10 steps almost instantaneously. The thunderous rumbling echoed across space. This shock set off a huge thunder shockwave. At this moment it looked like the world was covered in lightning, and it was a very shocking scene. Wang Lin couldn't take one more step. His current location was still at the edge of the Thunder Lake, but his origin soul couldn't bear it anymore. It felt like if he took one more step, his origin soul would be injured. My origin soul has devoured half of an ancient thunder dragon, and my body is made of thunder. My entire being is almost no different from real thunder, but even so, I have to stop here. This thunder here is simply too powerful. Wang Lin felt reluctance in his heart and began to ponder. Not far away, Shengong frowned and his eyes revealed a hint of disappointment. The reverence in his eyes died down as he looked at Wang Lin and thought, "This isn't right. With Senior's cultivation, why did he stop there? Could it be?" His eyes lit up. Even the thunder beast beside him was watching closely, and the fear in its eyes dissipated slightly. The silver-horned thunder beast didn't move and continued to cultivate as if it already knew this result. As Wang Lin stood there longer, Shengong, whose disappointment became even stronger, and he let out a sigh. He wanted to see a powerful spell of the person he pledged to, but unfortunately he saw nothing. This strong contrast caused the powerful reverence he had for Wang Lin to die down a lot. His extinguished Tao heart was also slowly recovering. Although 100 steps is an uncrossable gap for me right now, once my cultivation breaks through to the Nirvana Scryer stage, I will definitely be able to achieve a mere 100 steps. However, as a senior, how could he only be this strong? Shengong, whose expression turned gloomy, and he began to observe carefully. Wang Lin looked at the Thunder Lake before him. At this moment, it was as if he had forgotten everything. Everything around him disappeared, and it was as if the Thunder Lake was the only thing remaining. Just like when he was outside the gate and looking into the gap, into the heaven-defying Bead space. Just like back then, he even forgot about his own body and looked only at the endless Thunder Lake. After an unknown amount of time, after forgetting about time, forgetting everything, Wang Lin's body moved. He casually walked forward. This step was very casual, but it seemed to fall just at the right time. A bolt of thunder just happened to appear right under his feet. It looked as if he had stepped on that bolt of thunder. Shengong, whose originally diminishing reverence and gloomy expression, was startled. He seemed to have gained enlightenment but couldn't understand it. The armored thunder beast was also startled. The beast's eyes narrowed as it looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin had no expression. It remained neutral. His eyes were empty as he took another step. Just like last time, the moment his foot landed, there was a bolt of thunder for him to step on. Shortly after, Wang Lin took another step. From beginning to end, he was extremely casual, as if he wasn't walking toward the Thunder Lake but into his own backyard. With every step he took, there would be a bolt of thunder under his feet. Shengong, whose eyes opened fiercely. His eyes were filled with aghast and he sucked in a breath of cold air. The disappearing reverence showed signs of returning, and the disappointment immediately disappeared. As he stared at Wang Lin, the aghast in his eyes became stronger and stronger. In his eyes, one time might be accidental. Even twice or 3 times it could still be considered accidental or lucky. However, a bolt of thunder would appear to support every step Wang Lin took. This was no longer something that words accident and luck could explain. In his eyes, this was something completely impossible. This was thoroughly beyond his imagination. At this moment, in his eyes, Wang Lin had become the master of all the thunder in the world. The strange behavior of the Thunder Lake was clearly welcoming Wang Lin. Welcoming, yes, it's welcoming him. The aghast in Shengong, whose eyes became even stronger and filled his body. At this moment, a sense of excitement raged through his body like a storm. He had waited for 2 years to see spells like this. The armored thunder beast beside him suddenly raised its head. The feeling of awe appeared once more inside this thunder beast. The Thunder Beast's comprehension for thunder was far above its master's. In its view, the Thunder Lake wasn't welcoming Wang Lin. It was that Wang Lin's every step was landing on a vein of the Thunder Lake. Not far away, the silver-horned Thunder Beast that never looked over and seemed to not want to even look at Wang Lin suddenly stood up. Its huge eyes were filled with never-before-seen horror as it stared directly at Wang Lin. In Wang Lin's eyes, what he saw was no longer the Thunder Lake but rays of light that would appear and disappear. Every time his foot landed, he would always land on the shining light. He seemed to have gained enlightenment in his heart, as if this was the most correct method. He took step after step and seemed to have forgotten everything. Shengonghu's body trembled and he didn't dare to blink. He didn't want to miss even a moment of what was happening. He couldn't even believe everything that was happening before him. Wang Lin moved faster and faster until he only left an after-imagine, but that bolt of thunder would always appear under his feet every time. In the end, Wang Lin's body gave off a bright flash of thunder, and then a violent thunderstorm was set off around him. He was like a solitary boat that was calmly and firmly drifting among the raging waves of thunder. Too terrifying. This is real, a thunder spell. This is real thunder. The reverence in Shengonghu's eyes increased once more and his heart started pounding as if it was going to burst out of his chest. His reverence was several times stronger than it was 2 years ago. His reverence for Wang Lin reached such a new height that it could be considered blind belief. The Thunder Beast beside him shook violently, and the awe it felt was even more intense. Its feeling for thunder was much more profound than Shengonghu's. It thought that Wang Lin was the origin of thunder, and the awe from the depths of its soul made it completely surrender. At this moment, if Wang Lin asked it to attack Shengonghu, it would comply without any hesitation. Wang Lin's silver-horned Thunder Beast was even more shocked. It felt disbelief as it stared at Wang Lin. Its body trembled from the memories in its inheritance. At this moment, Wang Lin stopped and the strange scene before him disappeared. This state came without a trace and disappeared without a trace. At the moment his body stopped, Wang Lin awakened. His eyes were filled with confusion, and it took him a long time to gradually recover. This caused his understanding of thunder to become more profound. He knew that everything he saw was related to the comprehension he had toward the third step. Although this didn't increase his offensive power, it was far more important than any celestial spell or treasure. It was like an ant that had seen the human world and saw the magnificent cities. After seeing those incredible scenes and returning back to its cave, the ant would notice the similarities between the two worlds. Wang Lin was currently feeling like this. When he woke up, he found himself in the inner part of the Thunder Lake. Although this was still far from the center, the distance could no longer be described in steps. The thunder around here was far more dense than the thunder at the edge. All of the thunder here contained large amounts of origin energy. Wang Lin sat down and absorbed one strand. This strand of thunder entered his body and immediately caused him to tremble as if a powerful force had just shocked him. His entire body felt numb and even his origin soul began to slow down as if it was in water. Shengonghu withdrew his gaze. His reverence for Wang Lin had reached a peak. He had gained some enlightenment form before, so he was very excited. Just as he was about to sit down and cultivate on this enlightenment, he suddenly frowned. His eyes became cold and he looked at the distant asteroid field. Shortly after, a ray of purple light flew over. There was a wooden sword inside this light, and a person was standing on the wooden sword. "This place sure is lively." A mocking voice slowly arrived. This was a purple wooden sword that gave off a cold and fierce aura. The sword also gave off a purple glow and left behind a trail of purple. The purple light stopped outside the Thunder Lake. On the sword stood a man about 30 years old. His face was white without any facial hair and he was slightly handsome. However, his phoenix eyes revealed a strange feminine feel. He was wearing a golden purple robe that seemed to flow with an invisible wind. His gaze went past Shengonghu and landed on Wang Lin. What the man saw caused his pupils to shrink an indiscernible amount and all of the pores on his body immediately opened. At the moment this person appeared, Shengonghu's expression became gloomy. The Thunder Beast beside him stood and growled, its eyes filled with a hostile gaze. As for the silver-horned Thunder Beast, it withdrew its gaze from Wang Lin and glanced at the feminine man. Its eyes were filled with disdain as he lied there and began playing with the thunder around it. Those strands of thunder were extremely obedient under its control. They moved around its body like little hands scratching an itch. Not far away on an asteroid, the celestial guard just sat there and didn't even look over. If this person threatened its owner, it would immediately attack even if it had to sacrifice itself. This was due to the imprint left on its soul. However, if there were no threat to its master, then the person before him could slaughter 100,000 people and it wouldn't move an inch. Shen Gonghu said. Zhang Konglai. The feminine man carefully withdrew his gaze from Wang Lin because he was afraid of causing a misunderstanding. In his view, although this person's cultivation level was only at the late stage of ascendant, to be able to enter the inner ring of the Thunder Lake was simply too strange. Unless this person was hiding an unimaginably powerful treasure, he must have been hiding his real cultivation level. He also saw the silver-horned thunder beast at the edge of the Thunder Lake and the puppet. His suspicion deepened. He thought, he must have some hidden treasure. It's impossible for him to be concealing his cultivation level. Just why are there two thunder beasts here? Could this person also be a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple? After all, being inside the inner circle of the Thunder Lake was a terrifying prospect. Even with his peak corporeal yang cultivation, it was impossible for him to enter the inner circle. It's the Shengong family Gonghu. I didn't recognize you before. Your cultivation level has dropped a lot. The feminine man focused his mind and looked at Gonghu. Gonghu coldly snorted in his head, but his expression remained the same. However, his eyes were a bit gloomy as he calmly said, "This place is not for you. Why haven't you left yet?" Although he was injured and his cultivation hadn't recovered, with Wang Lin here, he would still dare to speak like this even if the Lord of the Thunder Celestial Temple personally came. Zhang Konglai frowned and subconsciously looked at Wang Lin. He slowly said, "What big words? Does this place belong to your Shengong family? You won't allow outsiders to come just because you brought a junior here to cultivate." Shengonghu sneered but didn't explain. He coldly said, "If you don't leave in 3 breaths, then you might as well not leave." He really disliked this talented man from the Zhan family. If it wasn't for the fact that their strengths were very close, the two would have already attacked each other. If this Zhan Konglai remained ungrateful and disturbed his senior's cultivation, he would attack even though his cultivation was damaged. As long as senior looked at Zhan Konglai with that gaze, it would be enough to cause Zhan Konglai to collapse. After all, this person wasn't a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple. Although killing him would be troublesome, as long as senior was here, it would be a small matter. Zhang Konglia's eyes narrowed, and then he immediately retreated. He was a cautious person, and as he retreated, his eyes fell on Wang Lin, who was in the depths of the Thunder Lake. The suspicion in his heart became even stronger. Why does this Shengonghu speak like this? His injuries can easily be seen through by any discerning eye. Could he be bluffing? If he isn't bluffing, then he must have a reason. Could it be this junior? Zhang Konglai thought about many things at once. 3 breaths have passed. Shengonghu grinned and stood up. Thunder immediately filled his body and gave off popping sounds. He charged out and the thunder beast let out a roar as it followed closely behind. However, the difference was that as it stepped out, it subconsciously looked at Wang Lin. Its eyes were filled with awe and were without a trace of doubt. The thunder beast's gaze caused Zhang Konglia's mind to tremble. Although Shengonghu was a scheming person, the thunder beast was very different. The information revealed by the thunder beast's eyes couldn't be thought about too deeply. The answer that its gaze revealed shook Zhang Konglia's mind. Due to his cautious personality, he immediately backed up without hesitation and shouted, "Shengonghu, I'm a considerate person. If you and I battle here, it will inevitably disturb your junior's cultivation. If you want to battle, let us leave here and battle outside the asteroid field." There was an emphasis on the word junior. Shengonghu's gaze became cold as he stepped outside the Thunder Lake and sneered. Why go through so much trouble? Here will be fine. The more Shengonghu was like this, the more doubt Zhang Konglai felt. He would rather retreat than attack. It was clear that Shengonghu was trying to force him to attack. Thinking about the Thunder Beast's gaze, an absurd idea emerged in Zhang Konglia's mind. His eyes lit up, his hand formed a seal, and a ray of purple thunder appeared in his palm. The purple-wood sword under him released powerful sword energy. The two forces fused to form a powerful pressure. This powerful pressure contained origin energy. It was only the first spell, but he was already using origin spell. It was clear that Zhang Konglai was extremely cautious of this battle. The battle was an instant away from starting. Shengong, who took a step and his hand pointed at the sky, as if he was about to summon divine retribution lightning. The thunder beast beside him roared and gathered countless thunderbolts toward its body. The two of them were creating a very shocking scene. However, just at this instant, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes and calmly said, "Shengong Hu, I will not help you in this battle. Let it be your test for pledging under me. If you lose, then I'll return your Dao soul back to you." Wang Lin's expression was neutral, but he was secretly distressed. He didn't stand a chance against Shengong Hu nor this Zhang Konglai. Once Shengong Hu failed, he would be in a bad situation. He originally wanted to find a quiet place to cultivate, but he seemed unable to achieve this. After this troublesome Zhang Konglai had appeared, Wang Lin quickly thought about this and spoke those words. Shengong Hu's body trembled and the battle intent in his eyes reached a limit. He stared at Zhang Kongling but respectfully replied, "Wang Lin, Lord can rest assured. Shengong Hu will not be defeated." Shengong Hu took a deep breath as he touched his bag of holding and took out a bottle of pills. Zhang Konglia's expression changed greatly. The moment Wang Lin said those words, he saw the hidden reverence inside Shengong Hu's eyes. When he saw that kind of demeanor, he thought that his eyes had gone bad. Also, that Thunder Beast's body trembled when that person spoke. It seemed as if it was terrified. In particular, the person talked about pledging. This information caused Zhang Konglia's mind to shake greatly. If these only made him doubt, then Shengong Hu's response shocked Zhang Konglai. It was enough to make every hair in his body stand up. "Lord." This word was not something easily spoken in the All-Heaven star system. This was especially true for second-step cultivators like them. Only after pledging themselves to a powerful existence would someone call the other Lord. Zhang Konglai didn't suspect Shengong Hu was faking, because none of this was worth it. Shengong Hu was extremely arrogant, and was the kind of person that would rather die than humiliate himself. Moreover, even if the two of them battled, it would be extremely difficult for either to die. At most they'd be seriously injured. Even Zhang Konglai himself wouldn't casually call someone Lord, just to avoid a battle that wouldn't even decide his life and death. After combining this with his previous speculations, that absurd idea came into his mind once more. His eyes were filled with terror as if he still couldn't believe it. Could it be that this person didn't rely on a magical treasure to enter the inner part of the Thunder Lake, but has concealed his cultivation? If it isn't so, how could he make the arrogant Shengong Hu pledge and call him Lord? Zhang Konglai sucked in a breath of cold air and quickly retreated once more. His mind quickly changed and he immediately said, "Brother Shengong shouldn't be impulsive." Shengong Hu's eyes became cold and he crushed the pill bottle in his hand. There was only one red pill inside and he swallowed it. His aura became violent and tyrannical immediately after doing so. "Zhang Konglai, battle with me." With a roar, Shengong Hu's right hand pointed at the sky. The origin energy inside his body rushed out and in an instant a dragon-like bolt of thunder descended from the void. This move affected the Thunder Lake. Countless strands of thunder gathered toward Shengong Hu. When Wang Lin saw Shengong Hu's origin spell, his eyes revealed a strange light. This spell was very strong. It involved using one's own origin energy to call out heavenly thunder. This wasn't any weaker than the origin furnace spell. Although it wasn't as grand as the origin furnace spell, it was even more powerful. Zhang Konglia's expression changed and he retreated once more. At the same time, his foot moved and the wooden sword flew up. He pointed at the wooden sword and it shot out. The wooden sword was covered in a purple light and carried with it a violent rumble. Shengong Hu's eyes were filled with battle intent. He wanted to display all his strength in this battle because Senior was watching. Shengong Hu let out a roar. His hand trembled slightly as he was injured. Although he had slightly recovered and had the help of the Thunder Celestial Temple's pill to suppress the injuries, allowing him to reach his peak for a moment, it still wasn't enough to use this spell. He clenched his teeth and his right hand suddenly fell. The divine tribulation lightning that appeared suddenly descended with unimaginable might. Zhang Konglia's expression turned gloomy. His hand rapidly formed seals and he spat out a mouthful of his body's vitality, which landed on the wooden sword. The wooden sword let out a roar before emitting a powerful sword energy and shooting directly at the divine tribulation lightning. When the two collided, a shocking bang spread across the area. The lightning collapsed and the wooden sword retreated. The remaining origin energy reached a limit, and a large amount of asteroids collapsed. Zhang Konglia's body trembled and he retreated a few steps. His expression was pale as he gloomily stared at Shen Gonghu. He was angered, and now his eyes were filled with battle intent as well. Shen Gonghu also retreated until he backed up into the Thunder Lake. Blood was coming out from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Zhang Konglai and smiled. "I find your feminine face displeasing to the eye. I didn't expect you to actually have some skill." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had observed the battle just now very carefully and had gained some enlightenment. He wouldn't be able to withstand a hit from either of these two corporeal yang origin spells. However, he saw some problems. Shen Gonghu's origin spell seemed imperfect. The power of that divine retribution lightning should have been stronger. Wang Lin had, after all, seen the world of the third step, and before he had stepped into the inner ring, he had vaguely seen the law of thunder. So it wasn't a surprise for him to see problems in Shen Gonghu's spell. This kind of phenomenon sometimes occurred in the mortal world's martial arts world. Someone who knew no martial arts but had read countless secret techniques and manuals would often be able to point out problems when they saw a move as the spectator. Although that person could see through the technique and gave out pointers, that person wasn't able to use it personally. Wang Lin was currently in this state. His eyes lit up and he said, "Shen Gonghu, your origin spell contained the power of thunder, but not the soul of thunder. Although your Tao heart fused with it, it isn't enough. Your faith lacks the power of thunder." Shen Gonghu was startled. This wasn't the first time he had heard those words. The Lord of the Thunder Celestial Temple and his family elders had also said this. However, hearing it from Wang Lin made him nervous and he respectfully said, "Please give me guidance, my lord." Not only Shen Gonghu, but the distant Zhang Konglai was also startled. He became more and more inclined to that absurd speculation he had. He had the same problem Shen Gonghu did. The Zhan family elder had also said this, and it was something they had to comprehend on their own. This was something not even the elders really understood and were still discovering, so how could they teach their juniors if they didn't know what was right or wrong? If they were right, it would be fine, but what if they were wrong? After all, no one knew if their path was right or wrong compared to the true path. This was because one knew the path to the third step. However, Wang Lin was different. He had seen the third step, so he knew the direction of progression. Others were afraid to say anything because even if they did, they weren't sure if it was correct. However, Wang Lin was different. He knew that what he had said was definitely correct. The current scene was extremely bizarre. Both Shen Gonghu and Zhang Konglai were both having a fierce battle filled with monstrous battle intent. But at the next instant, both of them had given up battling. Instead, they were focused on Wang Lin. Their gazes were different. Shen Gonghu's was filled with blind reverence, while Zhang Konglia's was filled with doubt. Wang Lin didn't continue to speak. This kind of thing was not something that could be clearly explained. While confused, if one understood, they would understand. Otherwise, they needed an opportunity, or else they would never understand. While pondering, Wang Lin raised his right hand and casually pinched the air. A strand of thunder landed in his palm. In the eyes of Shen Gonghu and Zhang Konglai, the power wasn't strong. However, what happened next caused both of them to gasp. Wang Lin's eyes released a strange light as he stared at the strand of thunder and waved his right hand. The strand of thunder disappeared, and what was left was a flickering light. It wasn't able to last very long and collapsed after a moment. Wang Lin closed his eyes to conceal the exhaustion within them. If it wasn't for the fact that the current situation was too dangerous, he wouldn't have bothered to put up this act. As Wang Lin closed his eyes, he slowly said, "Do you understand? Origin. Return to the origin." Shen Gonghu's eyes shined brightly and his body trembled from excitement. He gave Wang Lin a deep bow without any hesitation. His reverence for Wang Lin increased almost to the point of worship. He was suddenly enlightened as if a layer of paper was torn through. At this moment, Shen Gong, who was enlightened, he suddenly turned toward Zhang Konglai with glowing eyes and said, "Let us fight again." At this moment, Zhang Konglai's scalp was numb and his speculation of Wang Lin had reached a peak. He no longer doubted the absurd idea in his mind. He took a few steps back and then bowed toward Wang Lin and respectfully said, "This junior is Zhang Konglai. I didn't know senior was cultivating here. I offended you earlier, and I hope senior can forgive me. Junior will leave right away." He looked enviously at Shen Gao, who he had already understood why someone as arrogant as Shen Gong who would pledge to another. Zhang Konglia's voice contained a sour tone as he clasped his hands and said, "Congratulations, brother Shen Gong." Shen Gong, who didn't speak and coldly looked at Zhang Konglai. Zhang Konglai didn't mind and laughed. "Brother Shen Gong, I have already received a summon book from the Thunder Celestial Temple. In the future, both you and I will be messengers of the Thunder Celestial Temple." He once again bowed toward Wang Lin before turning around and leaving. Shen Gong, who didn't stop him, but his eyes turned frosty. Wang Lin calmly asked, "What is a summon book?" Shen Gong, who quickly turned around and respectfully said, "The summon book is a communication token from the Thunder Celestial Temple. Any candidate for becoming a messenger of the Thunder Celestial Temple will receive a summon book. 3 months before the Thunder Celestial Realm opens, the Thunder Celestial Hall will reorganize their messengers. If there are any messengers missing, the candidates will compete with each other for the position. With Zhang Konglia's cultivation, if there are no accidents, I fear he will win this time." Wang Lin nodded slightly. He no longer spoke and continued to absorb thunder and converting it into origin energy. Shen Gong, whose eyes revealed excitement. He had gained some enlightenment earlier, and now he immediately sat down in the Thunder Lake to cultivate. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, 8 years went by. Adding the 2 years from before, 10 years passed by in a flash. The origin energy inside Wang Lin gradually stabilized as he absorbed origin energy using the Thunder Origin spell. His origin soul was now full and couldn't absorb anymore. Wang Lin knew that it was because his cultivation level wasn't high enough. Only after entering the second step could he continue to absorb origin energy. Right now the most important thing was to break through his own cultivation. He stood up and looked at the thunder around him. The 10 years of contact made him understand thunder even better. It was as if he could see the origin of thunder, even though it was a bit blurry. His body moved and Wang Lin left the inner part of the Thunder Lake. He made his way toward the edge. Shen Gong, who was sent away by Wang Lin 3 years ago. Although this person revered him, Wang Lin didn't feel comfortable. Before Shen Gong, who left, he left a message Jade. The silver-horned thunder beast came over. Wang Lin sat on the thunder beast and it turned into a ray of thunder as it flew away from this place. The celestial guard once more returned to Wang Lin's shadow. Due to absorbing thunder in the Thunder Lake for 10 years, the speed of the thunder beast had increased. It rushed out of the asteroid field and disappeared among the stars. Wang Lin already knew the changes the heaven-defying bead had gone through. Not only were the 3 souls inside not affected, they looked even brighter than before. I must go to the Thunder Celestial Realm that is opening in 20 years. However, right now I need to find a hidden place to increase my cultivation level. Also, due to the change in the heaven-defying bead, it no longer needs the power of the 5 elements. So what does it need now? Wang Lin began to ponder on the back of the thunder beast. The heaven-defying bead was split between yin and yang. The two weren't fused, which confused Wang Lin. Sun and moon, yin and yang. As Wang Lin pondered, the thunder beast flew through the star-filled space. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and a jade appeared in his hand. This was something Shen Gong who had left. It was a detailed star map of the southern domain of the All-Heaven star system. There were detailed introductions inside, so Wang Lin wouldn't get lost as long as he had this. The place before him was considered the wilderness of the southern domain. Most of the planets here were deserted without anything special about them. Powerful cultivators seldomly came here. However, there were mortals living on these planets along with some low-rank cultivation families. In 20 years of time, I need to prepare for the trip to the Thunder Celestial Realm. Also, some of my spells need some adjustments. Many of my spells don't conform with the third step I saw. If I continue using them, the path I walk will be wrong. In particular, the resentful spirits needed for my underworld river need to be quickly collected. Also, it is about time I have my own cultivation planet in the all-heaven star system. As Wang Lin pondered, his eyes lit up. Before him was a wasted planet. It was filled with vitality, so it meant that there were a lot of mortals living there. The reason he chose this place was because it was very similar to planet Suzaku. He was somewhat homesick. Wang Lin jumped off the thunder beast. After he did so, it let out a pitiful cry and helplessly turned into the war chariot before entering Wang Lin's bag. Just as he was about to charge toward the planet, Wang Lin's expression suddenly changed. Inside his bag, a powerful fluctuation came from inside the celestial sword. This fluctuation contained a powerful aura and ancient sword intent. Damn sword intent, your Grandpa Su had finally conquered you. Henceforth I'm the true sword spirit. I'm very badass. Very badass. Wang Lin's expression was strange as he looked down at his bag of holding. The bag also exuded a powerful sword intent along with an arrogant aura that was about to charge out. Little Lindsay, you still not letting your Lord Su out? Humph. Let me tell you I'm badass now. Su Ligua's overbearing voice came from the bag. The bag of holding trembled violently, as if a force from ancient time was about to charge out. Just at the moment when this force reached a peak, Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he viciously hit the bag of holding. Su Ligua's overbearing voice immediately weakened. Even the dense sword intent was suppressed and was unable to spread out. Oh, little Lindsay, you still don't understand the situation. This lord don't blame you. This lord it not the little Su Ligua I was before. This lord had inherited the ancient sword intent. Before he finished speaking, Wang Lin's hand formed a seal and pointed at the bag. This time Su Ligua's voice suddenly stopped. Wang Lin frowned and calmly said, "Noisy." His body charged directly toward the wasted planet before him. From far away, this planet was covered in blue. It seemed oceans occupied most of its surface. The vitality coming from it was very strong. Clearly there were a lot of mortals living there. Wang Lin's speed was very fast. He was like a meteor as he charged toward the planet. Because he was moving too fast, an elliptical light cone appeared around him. He pierced through space as he rushed into the planet. The atmosphere of this planet was thin and Wang Lin charged directly through it. When he arrived in the sky above the planet and looked down, he revealed a trace of confusion. This place was far too similar to planet Suzaku. It wasn't a similarity in appearance but the feeling and the aura. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and scanned the planet. There were cultivators here, but the most powerful cultivator was only at the nascent soul stage. There wasn't even a single soul formation cultivator. He pondered for a bit. He decided to not look for a secret place but chose the highest mountain on the planet. Once he located the mountain, he flew there directly. Fengyun Peak was the highest peak on planet Qingling. Although the spiritual energy here was thin, it had a spectacular view. One could easily see the end of the world from the peak. It was also covered in mist, making it look like a celestial mountain. There were many cultivation families on planet Qingling. Their numbers were on par with the amount of mortal nations on this densely populated planet. Almost every mortal country had at least one or two cultivation families. This strange phenomenon had to do with the fact that this planet didn't have enough spiritual energy and had no soul formation cultivators. This Hengyun Peak belonged to the Zhang family, who had the most nascent soul cultivators. Normally, the nascent soul cultivators in the Zhang family, whose lifespans were almost up, would come here and enter closed-door cultivation to attempt to comprehend the heavens. Over time, the originally beautiful peak became bare for some unknown reason. Even the wind that came from the mountain became cold. On this day, the Zhang family member that had been stuck at the nascent soul stage the longest, the family head, Zhang Xinhai, walked out from the mountain with a body filled with death aura. Every cultivator whose life was about to end would go through this cycle. They would sit at the top of the Hengyun Peak and stare at the sky as their life slowly ran out. He could feel that his body was slowly weakening. His steps were slow and difficult as he walked toward the peak. At the top of the Hengyun Peak there was a large stone platform. Just as Zhang Xinhai reached the peak, his eyes immediately narrowed. He looked at the person on the platform with his muddy gaze. This was a youth wearing white and his black hair flowed in the wind. His clothes were also being blown by the wind and were making flapping sounds. In Zhang Xinhai's eyes, it was as if this person doesn't exist. He couldn't detect anyone there with his divine sense, yet he could clearly see the person with his eyes. This strong contrast made it so that he couldn't help but take a few steps back. There was a trace of shock in his calm expression. The black-haired youth didn't turn around. He looked at the sunset over the horizon and calmly said, "This place is not bad." This simple sentence had no power within it, but when it landed in Zhang Xinhai's ears, it suddenly filled his frail body with vigor. It also suppressed his identity as the powerful head of the Zhang family. He subconsciously lowered his head and his eyes filled up with terror. This was the effect of an aura. This was something he knew about. When he met even mortal emperors, they would lower their heads due to his own aura. At this moment, this was happening to him. The only explanation was that he was like a mortal to this youth. Unfortunately, such a mountain was used by you guys as a graveyard. The black-haired youth shook his head and waved his right hand. The mountain immediately trembled and the death aura that had gathered here for countless years immediately vanished without a trace. The entire mountain seemed to gain new life, like when someone who had a long-term illness suddenly recovered. The mountain recovered immediately and seemed to be filled with life. Zhang Xinhai was startled as he stared at the scene before him, and only recovered after a while. His face was filled with excitement. Without any hesitation, he knelt on the ground and respectfully said, "Junior Zhang Xianhai greets Senior. If Senior likes this Hengyun Peak, then Junior will immediately gift it to you." Hengyun Peak. This black-haired youth was Wang Lin. He turned around, looked at Zhang Xinhai and slowly said, "Your lifespan is almost at its end. It would be difficult to change that even with my power." Zhang Xinhai let out a bitter smile and respectfully said, "Senior misunderstood me. Junior understands the will of heavens and does not seek help. To be able to meet a powerful cultivator like Senior before dying leaves Junior with no regrets. Not to mention this mountain, I'll even give Senior this planet, Qingling, if Senior wants it." Wang Lin turned around and his right hand sent a ray of spiritual energy to the spot between Zhang Xinhai's brows. He gently said, "I can't change your life, but burning your own spiritual energy to extend your life by 10 years is something I can do." When he sent out that ray of spiritual energy, Wang Lin let out a sigh. This spell was something he could just barely use after seeing the third step. If he knew about this before, then Li Muwen wouldn't be taking shelter inside the heaven-defying bead. When the spell landed between Zhang Xinhai's eyebrows, his body trembled and he immediately felt vitality coming from the spiritual energy in his body. His face became red as he took a deep breath. He looked at Wang Lin and respectfully said, "Thank you, Senior. If Senior has any commands, Junior will do his best to carry them out." Someone who had become the Zhang family's head was not stupid. No one in this world would do this for nothing. When he heard Wang Lin say that this mountain was good, he immediately gifted the mountain without any hesitation. For someone with Wang Lin's kind of cultivation to say that, it was already very merciful. Those that had bad tempers would just occupy it directly. If they became unhappy, it would be too easy for them to slaughter a few small cultivation families like theirs. Zhang Xinhai guessed that this person was not from planet Qingling and must have come from outside. To be able to step into space meant that this person was at least at the soul transformation stage or above. Wang Lin calmly looked at Zhang Xinhai and calmly said, "I'll give you 10 years of time to collect as much resentment from the mortal world as possible. The more the better. If I'm pleased with your result, then as long as this planet has me, your Zhang family will never be extinguished. Go now." Wang Lin waved his big sleeves. Zhang Xinhai only felt a gust of wind. Before him was only thick fog and wind filled his ears. When he regained his vision, he was already at the foot of the mountain. The scene from before felt like a dream to him. He touched the spot between his eyebrows, felt the dense vitality in his body, and took a deep breath. His eyes were filled with excitement as he bowed toward the mountain and quickly left. "I must do my best to complete Senior's request." Zhang Xinhai turned into a ray of light as he charged toward the Zhang family's home. After sending away Zhang Xinhai, Wang Lin pondered a bit before taking out the 1 billion soul flag. He gently stabbed the 30-foot-tall flag into the mountain. The flag was opened by the wind and the soul fragments flew out, surrounding the entire peak. The 3 primary souls came out and surrounded the area. The entire mountain was immediately covered by a dense black fog. Wang Lin waved his right hand backwards and a powerful force shot out toward the mountain. There were sounds of explosions as a large cave appeared in the mountain. The door to the cave was at the top of the mountain, surrounded by rocks. It looked very majestic. Wang Lin's right finger pointed out and a celestial spell shot out and imprinted on the door. The presence of the celestial spell created a powerful pressure. After doing all of this, Wang Lin sat down and his divine sense spread across planet Qingling once more. This time he wasn't searching, he was sending out a message. From today onward, this is my cultivation planet. The area 5,000 kilometers around Hengyun Peak is a forbidden zone. Any trespasser will not be shown mercy. Wang Lin's divine sense was like thunder as it echoed across the planet. His voice entered the ears of every cultivator, causing their expressions to change greatly. However, not a single one of them dared to resist. A spell that could spread across the entire planet shocked their hearts, and also made them feel like it was something inconceivable. From this day onward, planet Qingling had an owner, and that owner was Wang Lin. Wang Lin was the peak existence on planet Qingling. He was just like the blood ancestor, who had the right to control life and death on the blood planet, and also like the all-seer supreme identity on planet Tianyun.